Good morning, 7th grade. Welcome to video lecture number 2. Remember in chapter 24, which is Interactions of Life, and we're in section 1. So yesterday we finished off with the coral reef, just talking about the biosphere and giving some examples, and we saw our friend the sea turtle on slide 19. Now let's look at slide 20, dealing with life on Earth. Within the solar system, the Earth is the third planet from the Sun, also known as the third rock from the Sun, you may have heard. It's in a perfect position. And what I mean by that is the amount of energy that reaches Earth from the Sun is perfect for life to exist and make it sustainable on Earth. If we go back one planet closer to the Sun, Venus, the second planet, it has a very thick carbon dioxide atmosphere and a super high temperatures, therefore life cannot exist. In fact, it's quite dangerous on that planet just due to those super high temperatures. Now if we move in the other direction, move a planet further away from the Sun, Mars being the fourth planet, is by far much colder and has a thinner atmosphere. Now, it might support microscopic life, but we haven't found any yet. And going beyond Mars, the fourth planet from the Sun, in other words, the fifth and following, those planets beyond Mars do not receive enough heat from the Sun to support life, and therefore life cannot exist. Now, looking at slide 21, you see a visualization representing the planets and their relative distance away from the Sun. You can, of course, see where Earth is, and that it's in a prime location. Now, looking at slide 22, we see the rotation of the Earth around the Sun, hence the seasons and connections. So we'll start with the perihelion in January 3rd, which is 147,300,000 kilometers. Moving into spring, which is the March equinox, March 20th, 21st. Moving into summer solstice, June 21st, 22nd. The hottest day of the year, aphelion, July 4th, 152,100,000 kilometers away. Fall, the September equinox, September 22nd, 23rd. And the December/winter solstice, December 21st and 22nd. Look at slide 23, you see the beauty of what the sun provides in sustaining life, those plants, the tree and the grass. Now looking at slide 24, as you're watching this video, make sure you write this down if you haven't done so already. We're going to start from the lower and go to the larger. First we have the individual, which includes one individual within a species, the population, which is a grouping of that species, the community, which includes that population of species and other species within the environment. We have the ecosystem, which then includes the non-living items into that same community in an area. Then we have the biome, which is multiple ecosystems coming together, forming a biome, and then we have multiple biomes coming together to form the biosphere. Now let's move into the term ecosystem. Let's define it, and let's at least look at a brief example. So an ecosystem, by definition, consists of all the organisms that live in an area, as well as the non-living parts of that environment. Now the example we have here is Yellowstone National Park. The living organisms are the bison, the grass, the birds, the insects. That's just a few. And then of course our non-living parts would be the water, the sunlight, and the soil. Now one other term in connection with this is ecology, which is the study of, and in particular it's the study of interactions that occur among organisms and their environments. Moving to slide 26, we can just see some visual representation of both the living and non-living aspects of Yellowstone National Park. Of course, seeing in the bottom right-hand corner, we see the famous geyser, Old Faithful, and then those pools, which the colorization is due to the archaeobacteria. Moving into slide 27, now we're going to define another term, and that is the term community. A community is all the populations of all living species living in an ecosystem. For example, just two examples here will be sufficient. The prairie community, which has the bison, grasshoppers, cowbirds, grasses, and shrubs, and the Arctic community, which includes fish, seals, polar bears, and tundra plants. And looking at slide 28, you can see a beautiful little community ecosystem there in this coral reef. Obviously, you can tell it's in an aquarium. Moving into 29, we're going to define another term, and that is the term populations. A population is made up of all the organisms of the same species that live in an area at the same time. Now, an example, an ecologist can study a herd of bison that move from place to place and how a female cares for her young and still be studying the population. Because remember, the population is made up of all the organisms of the same species. So they're studying, in this case, the bison. Now, if you look at slide 30, you see this really cool picture of this underwater scientist taking a picture of a school of fish. And it's just amazing to think that many fish coordinate where they go. Slide 31 just once again shows from the larger to the smaller, and talking about how the biosphere, there's global processes. The ecosystem talks about energy flux and cycling of nutrients. The community is the interaction among populations. Population is population dynamics. Organism, survival, and reproduction. So you can just see how the processes go for a larger scale to a more smaller scale. Looking at slide 32, we're going to talk about habitats in connection with this. Each organism needs a place to live. That's just a reality. We know that's the case. So a habitat is the place in which an organism lives. Now, an example I've given with those pictures on the right in slide 32 is woodpeckers. They live in trees. They have strong beaks to pry open nuts for food, and also bark so they can look for insects, another form of food they eat as well. They tend to usually nest in the holes of dead trees, and there are actually some that will actually live in cacti here in Arizona. Thought this was kind of humorous for you guys. Woody woodpecker, and looks like that woodpecker was hitting a little too hard on that tree. And here we are at the end of section 1 on slide 34. Just got some kind of funny things I always thought about, because I remember when I was going to college, I knew some students that could literally come to school in shorts even though there had been snow. Well, have a nice day, students, and like I said, please make sure you are taking notes. If you are not, please make sure you are catching up to take the notes on the slides. Have a nice day, and look forward to a group session with you guys on Thursday. Take care. Bye.